Hi, welcome to NicheCraft. My name is Cassie and I'm your host, and today I thought it would be nice to take some time and do a Wellness Wednesday. I didn't do it yesterday, which was actually Wednesday, because I was busy committing crepe murder with my new power tool, and I'll go ahead and tell Greg to put an image up so you can see what I mean by that. And it was just, we needed to get rid of some non-native trees because we're going all native in our garden, and we want to make sure that we're supporting wildlife, and that's for another video. So anyway, Wellness Wednesday is something I like to do once a week, and it's just focusing on crafting ourselves, looking at ourselves and trying to find ways that we can live a healthier life. And gardening does kind of come into it because it's what gave me my idea for this week's Wellness Wednesday. So this Wellness Wednesday is about holistic health. And the first time I think that I heard about holistic health was when I heard about humanist psychology, which would have been, oh goodness, back in the late 90s when I was in high school. And I heard about humanistic psychology, which then turned into positive psychology, which then has a branch of it in holistic psychology. And holistic psychology looks at different facets of a human. And instead of just trying to help with the mental and emotional issues that that person's going through, they also try to change other very important facets of health, such as physical health, emotional, mental, social, intellectual. Now I've added a little slash next to intellectual because I think that it's important for us to cultivate our critical minds, our more intellectual minds, let's say, but it's also important to cultivate our creative minds. So when I think of the intellectual facet, I always have thought about it as intellectual and creative, because both of those are important, I think, for humanity. So I just wanted to mention that. And then the spiritual level, which is an area that some people can find counseling through whatever religion they're in. I know that a lot of churches have that because my aunt was a counselor through her church. But anyway, I just wanted to mention those facets. So how about if you have something to write with, or if you've got you're probably watching this on a computer, so you might want to just like open a new tab and like just type this in. We're going to be talking about physical, mental, emotional, social, intellectual / creative, and spiritual health, okay? And when I first started gardening, after I had surgery to help me with what I had chronic pain for a really, really long time, and they identified what was wrong, and I had surgery, and I was one of those cases where my chronic pain actually was able to be isolated, solved, and I am so, so happy and blessed for that. And I recognize that was, I know how big that is, because my life completely changed in a good way when I had my full body back. It was like I had to learn my limitations because I was overreaching, like literally overreaching for things. Like it was really interesting. But anyway, so I had all of this physical energy and I started gardening because that was something that I loved to do before all of this stuff hit me and I had chronic pain. So I went outside and I was like, oh, I'm going to make, there had been some deaths in my family, and I was like, I want to make a nice butterfly garden in remembrance of different people who have passed away. It started with a family pet. I wanted to turn her little grave site into a butterfly garden, and then it just kind of expanded and it went on. And I started noticing, my goodness, like I am actually exercising my body. It takes a lot of work physically to build a garden, at least when you're like dealing with just earth, you're just dealing with a lawn basically. We live out in the country, so our lawn is a little mismatch of all sorts of different things. But yeah, I mean, I started to install a garden, and so I had to do all sorts of things to our soil, and then put down mulching and cardboard to crowd out some weeds, and then do some other. I mean, there's a lot of steps, I mean, I didn't have to make gardening that hard, but I did. But in addition to the physical aspects of gardening, there was also the creativity aspect. I was like, well, I want my garden to look a certain way. I want there to be a continuity of color. And then I thought about, I educated myself, and I got that intellectual and mental side of it, where I started thinking about, well, these are the things that I need to include, because some of our pollinators are endangered. And so I wanted to support the monarchs, who are extremely endangered in the United States right now. And those of us in the States and Canada can do a lot of good to help the monarchs by planting milkweed that's native to your area. So I got some different kinds of milkweed. I started figuring out how to grow different kinds of things from seed, because I don't have a big budget. I can't just put in a huge garden anytime, So I was buying seeds and learning how to plant them and everything. So I was engaging my mind. I was engaging my spiritual side, and I was engaging my physical side. And I am sure you can see where I'm going with this. This garden was such a great thing for me because it was a holistic activity. So, as I was talking to my therapist about it at one point or another, maybe a couple of weeks after I started it, she pointed that out. Oh, Cassie, the reason why you're just feeling so great about this is because it's a holistic hobby. And I'm like, oh, holistic. I know that word. I know that word from when I studied psychology. So it was really cool to get that feedback. And then I started thinking, well, what are other holistic activities? And by definition, of a holistic, the psychological definition of it, okay? A holistic activity is something that involves 3 or more of that list that I had you write down or type out or just remember, which is physical, mental, emotional, social, intellectual, or creative, and spiritual. So I wanted to give you some examples of things that I thought of that are holistic. And the reason I want to talk about these is that they are especially positive in your life. If you want to create a wellness around you and be very healthy, then find as many holistic activities that you can, and make sure that when you are doing something, you're not just nurturing one side of yourself, okay? Sometimes there's going to be a time where you've just like, okay, I've got to run it out, or whatever, sometimes there is going to be that time where you've got to just do one thing, and sometimes that's all you can do, right? Okay? So there's nothing wrong with having a single purpose, okay? But when you incorporate more holistic activities in your life, you will feel better. And this has been studied by many people for a long time, at least since the 70s, probably longer than that. Because I know that humanistic psychology got really going in the 70s, and it was like in the 90s. If I was studying it in the 90s, and it's probably been around further. I know that Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, Maslow is one of those who got that going, because remember, in the hierarchy, for those of you who know, there are different in that pyramid. It's like you've got to get your basic needs met first, your physical, and then it just kind of piles on top of that. And when you're holistically living, you can achieve your greatest goals, which is at the top of the pyramid. So anyway, yoga is holistic. How is it holistic? So it's physical, because typically in yoga you have to stretch, and breathe. You're very mindful of that. It's emotional and mental, I think, because you have to think about what you're doing. It's bringing awareness to your body. And I think that sometimes when we quiet ourselves down and we're still, not only can we confront emotions that kind of bubble up when we're still, but we can also control our thoughts. And part of yoga is controlling your breathing, controlling your thoughts, and that kind of stuff. So I think that it does have that component. It can be social if you're doing it in a class. Now, you don't have to do it as a class. I know I would never go to a yoga class. I mean, nothing against anybody who does, but it's just, I don't want to be in those weird positions in front of anybody. I don't know. Maybe I'm like weird, but and it does involve that intellectual part of you, because you have to get kind of creative, at least people like me do, about how to get into these positions and all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of people report having a very strong spiritual connection when they are doing yoga after a while, because it's very meditative too. So this is incorporating all of them, right? But it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. It doesn't have to incorporate all of them. It could be something like team sports, where you've got your social health, your physical health, and maybe you've got a little intellect or creativity going so you can win the game, right? Team sports is great. But it does not have to be necessarily a team sport. It could be a solitary sport like golf, where, you don't usually think about playing golf in teams so much, where it's like a man versus nature. So you're physically involved, and you have all of this nature around you. So you're involved both creatively. You've got to think about where we're going to put the ball. What's the best approach? You're strategizing. You've got your intellect and your creative. A lot of really good golfers talk about their mental game, visualizing and all of that kind of stuff. And I would imagine that at Augusta National, where they call the 3 holes that are right together, they call it Amen Corner. I bet it can be very spiritual as well. In fact, I would be hard pressed to find a golfer who doesn't admit that there is a spiritual component to golf. And yes, I'm a golf fan. I know, like, who is a golf fan? Well, I am. So whenever you change the channels and you find golf and you're like, who would watch that? Just know I would. So anyway, gardening obviously is one. I've already gone over that. But guess what? Crochet and knitting is one too, because it's engaging your, you could say it's physical because you're using your body to do it, right? But think about making a wearable, right? So let's just kind of visualize a little bit. Let's say, okay, so we're making a sweater, okay? So that is something that's physical, right? Oh, maybe you're making a sweater for your friend, so that's social, right? Maybe it's a friend who you really care about, so that's emotional. And I don't know a single person who crochets or knits that doesn't say that it really helps them with their mental health. So we've got the mental health going on too. You can add, intellectual and creative, of course, is creative. But you could even add the spiritual element by making a prayer shawl. For those of you who know what a prayer shawl is, it's when you think about something that's been bothering you, and you just kind of work it into the shawl, and as you're doing that, you're praying. It's a very it's a very spiritual experience to make a prayer shawl, and then just getting a group together at a place of worship where let's have a knitting group here at church or wherever you go. I'm trying to be inclusive, okay, guys? So I'm sorry that I'm not including every place, but obviously at your place of worship, you could always do that. Another thing, speaking of church, you could go to a religious service with friends. It might not even be your own denomination or your own choice of religion. It could be a different religion for intellectual curiosity or creativity, or just to understand how other people live. That curiosity and that intellectual pursuit is part of holistic living, as well as it being social and spiritual as well. There are a lot of community services where they come together and they cook together, and then they eat together, and they provide maybe free meals, or maybe it's for a group of people. Every single time you're cooking for someone, you're doing a holistic activity, even if that person is yourself, because you are getting creative, you are putting thought into creating this, whatever you're going to eat. You're making decisions, is part of some kind of intellectual pursuit that you're doing. And when you're sitting down to eat, it's nice and relaxing. And everybody talks about the fight or flight, right? It's fight or flight, this and that, and freeze, and sometimes it's fawning over people, right? Well, there's another one called rest and digest. I'm not kidding. It's the opposite. I'm not kidding. Rest and digest is what you do after you eat. It is part of the human nervous system, and so you are taking care of that psychological side as well when you're doing that. Another one I came up with is interior decorating. So anyway, if you think about it, you can find a lot of things that you do probably just naturally, like even cleaning could be a holistic activity. But what I want you guys to do, because I did it and it really helped me, is I'd like for you to kind of like, as you're going about your day for the next few days, write down all the different things you're doing that's holistic. And then also try to find some holistic things that you can start incorporating into your life so that you can feel more healthy and better, okay? Because it's always about maximizing our experience. And remember, a holistic activity is one that includes 3 or more of the following: physical, mental, emotional, social, intellectual or creative, and spiritual. Okay, so those are the facets of what a holistic psychologist will look at when they're treating their patients. And I just thought that that would be a really fun thing to share with you guys. I hope you guys are doing wonderfully. I'm doing really well. I'm in my PJs. I'm about to go read before bed, and I just wanted to tell you guys, I can't tell you how good it feels to be back. I've got my giveaway that's going to be posting tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to starting that because I know it gets a lot of people excited. It gives you something to share with your friends and all of that. And also just to feel glad that I'm able to just spend some time with you guys here and talk a little bit about some of the things that I think helps everybody feel better, because in the end, no matter what my channel is specializing in, and right now it's crochet and crafts and that kind of stuff, we're all humans and we need to take time for humanity, I think, at least. And that said, I hope you enjoyed this Wellness Wednesday. Know that I have a lot of yarny content coming. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to get into a giveaway that's going to be like a big crochet and yarn huge Baby's excited about it. This huge giveaway. Go ahead and subscribe. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you will know when I post that video. Baby's talking about how he wants to be on YouTube soon, so you're going to see a video with Baby in it soon, I'm sure. And just know that I really care about each and every one of you. I read all your comments, even if I don't respond. Know that I'm reading them. I will see you soon in another video. Bye for now.